Hey YouTubers, it's RCMIKE and Brian back with you with the Trail Finder build. What we're going to do today is show you guys how to put a new Dean's connector on. We are going to cut this Tamiya style connector off the axial AE2 speed control and use these Dean's connector style battery connectors. These work much nicer, easier to plug in, and they last a lot longer. The problem with these Tamiya style connectors is they have a tendency to wear out over time. As you plug these in and disconnect them, the prongs in there get worn out, and these are just very temperamental when it comes to longevity. They just wear out, and they're not very efficient plugs, so I tend to cut these off every time. So we're going to show you how to do that. Another thing I want to show you guys is a little bit of what I do with the wiring to try to clean it up. We have this car ready to go. As far as all the wires, it's all done except for this plug. I've got my wire from the speed control. Go ahead and zoom in on this wire here. I use heat shrink tubing to put the wires in, and you can see it running along the frame here and coming up over here, Bree. Coming up over here, I've got it also in heat shrink tubing, and it comes out looking real clean and real nice inside the frame. Here we have our winch wire also in heat shrink tubing coming through our cross member here and going back, and then our servo wire is also in heat shrink, and you can barely see it inside here, and it runs along our frame in here, come back along here, and it's back in between our transmission and our frame rail right there inside heat shrink tubing. The tubing shrinks right down to the size of the wire. Continue back here, and then when we get back to here, you can see we've got our shift servo with the heat shrink here also, which drops in underneath our battery platform and then goes back here, back to our receiver box. Go ahead, zoom out a little. Here we have our winch controller is inside here, our receiver is inside here. This switch right here is actually our front and rear winch control switch. So if we want to use the front switch, we put it in the front position there. If we want to use the rear, we just flick it to the rear. We don't usually run both winches at the same time, so there's really no need to have it switch so that they both work. So it's either front or back. So that's how we do that. And then of course all the wiring to that is all heat shrinked. Some people, go ahead and zoom out. Some people are showing you guys how to use this split loom. Zoom into that a little bit. This is a split loom. It's a wiring conduit basically that you see on automobiles. I don't prefer to use this stuff. It's way too big for what we're using. When you use this and you run all your wires through here, you end up with just a ton of split loom conduit all over the car, and it really doesn't look that good. Go ahead and zoom out. So instead of having a clean run, you end up with this very large
chunky piece of
looking split loom running through there, and when you get 2 or 3, you end up with this big giant snake that runs through your car. It's really just not designed for an RC car. Can you use it? Yes, you can, but it really doesn't make the car look better. So you want to use heat shrink tubing. So this is what the tubing looks like. It comes in all different sizes down to 1/8. You can even get it smaller, and you can get it in bigger sizes too. So whatever size you need the wire to be, to run through there, you can get heat shrink tubing to fit. And then when you heat that up and shrink it, it becomes molded to the wire, and it looks real clean. Like I say, we've got all of our wires in this car already, and you can see that there are a few runs in here. Go ahead and zoom in on this. There are a few runs in here that are, go zoom out, that are along the chassis line. If we had this big split loom, running through here, you can see how just one piece can take up a lot more space, so this split loom's real cheap, it's real easy to get, but it really just does not look better, and it's not waterproof. This split loom has a split all the way through it, so water can get in there, mud can get in here. Over time this just fills up with dirt and mud, and it's just a mess. This is really not something you want to use on an RC car. It just turns into a nightmare. So I know that there's a lot of people out there that are using this, but don't use it. Just use the heat shrink tubing. It's going to come out looking way, way better. And if you use this, don't go to the racetrack, because you'll get laughed at until you get run out of the track. So it's not a racer's thing either, so it's just that's a quick, easy fix, but don't do it to an RC car. It's just not, it's not the standard idea or the standard design for that stuff. So anyway, you can see that this wiring's all protected with the heat shrink tubing, and it looks a lot nicer. So with that, let's go ahead and cut this plug off.
Alright.
Also remember, when you cut these plugs off, you instantly void most warranties with the speed control. Some of the speed controls that don't come with plugs, you don't have to worry about, obviously, voiding a warranty. But cutting this off pretty much is going to void the warranty. So with that, we'll let Brian cut that off. The other thing that we're going to do today is show you guys how to solder on this female plug. Yeah, Brian always knows how to get rid of the things we don't necessarily need to use, so we don't want to ever see that thing again. And then go ahead and strip the ends of that, just about a 1/4 inch. These plugs, another little feature that these plugs, zoom in on this here. I've got two different styles of batteries here, same brand but different sizes. This is a small 3-cell and this is a 5000 2-cell. These plugs here, I originally thought that these were really nice. They're universal. The connectors are really nice. The banana plug and the bullet connectors are very, very nice. However, one of the things that you can do on accident is plug these wires in together like this. And if you plug these two wires together, which you can, they'll fit right together. You can accidentally plug these two batteries in and short them out. Now, when I first got these batteries, I thought, well, we're not going to do that. Well, within one day, we accidentally plugged these in. When you're working on a car and you've got the battery and maybe another battery and a charger and all these wires, we have plugged in batteries twice. So, on accident. So, these are just not a good design because you can accidentally plug in two batteries. So that's why I don't like to use these. If you're a little more careful, I guess they can work, but anyway, that's one of the big problems with these batteries. Go ahead and zoom out. And it's unfortunate that we've been doing this a long time and we've accidentally done it twice. So we killed one battery doing it, and the other one was okay, but still it's not a good deal. So anyway, when you solder these wires up, you have to be very, very careful, because when you cut these, you can't just cut the wire, zoom in, you can't just cut both wires at the same time because this battery's already charged. So what you have to do is you have to cut one at a time. Then what I like to do, because I've accidentally shorted out these batteries before just working on them and soldering them, is I like to take a rubber band or a strap or something and strap it around the battery and just hold that wire down, because you're going to work on these one at a time, and then you can cut the other one off, but you want to make sure that this one doesn't touch the other one. So while you're working on it, you want to keep them separated. Let's see those strippers. These are the plugs we're going to be using, these Dean's connectors. You can get them in packs of multiple packs. These are just 2 packs here. To me, these are, I'd say, the best plugs out there on the market. The Traxxas plugs are nice. They have low resistance, but they're too big for me. When you put them on a 18th scale car, or even a 16th scale car, the plugs can get kind of bulky, and they're just too big. But they are nice plugs, so if you've got the Traxxas plugs and you're putting them on everything, it's totally fine. So the first thing you want to do is cut some heat shrink tubing. The Dean's connectors do come with a piece of tubing. I like to add a little bit longer piece than what they give you. They give you about a 3/8 inch long piece of tubing. And you want to push these all the way in there. As you heat this wire up, the heat drives down here and it can shrink this tubing before you're ready to put it on the end.